All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about something that's at the absolute heart of why so many projects just go completely off the rails: resource allocation. If you get this right, you can turn total chaos into crystal clarity. But if you get it wrong, well, you're pretty much signing up for missed deadlines and busted budgets. So let's dig in and figure out how to get it right. So, let me ask you this. What is the real reason projects fall behind? I mean, we've all had that feeling, right? You're staring at a deadline that suddenly feels impossibly close. You might think it's this perfect storm of a million different complex problems. But what if I told you the cause is usually way, way simpler? Yeah, a lot of the time, the root of all that chaos is just one tiny little domino. It could be one person who got double booked, one piece of software that wasn't installed on time, one meeting room that wasn't available. That's it. That one little missing piece is all it takes to kick off a massive, destructive chain reaction. And that right there, that brings us to the core of this whole problem. It's what I call the project domino effect. It's this idea that projects aren't just a simple to-do list. No, they're this deeply interconnected web, where one tiny snag can literally cause the whole thing to unravel. See, here's why this matters so much. Because all those tasks are connected. When just one of them misses its deadline, usually because a person or a tool just wasn't available, it doesn't stop there. Boom, it triggers a cascade. It pushes back the next task and then the task after that and on until suddenly your entire project is in serious trouble. So how in the world do we stop these dominoes from falling in the first place? How do we build a project that's resilient instead of ridiculously fragile? Well, the answer is a proactive strategy called resource allocation. Put simply, resource allocation is just the process of assigning and managing your assets to support your team's goals. In plain English, it's all about making sure you have the right stuff in the right place at exactly the right time. Now, resources can sound a little abstract and corporate, right? But it really just boils down to 5 concrete things. First, you've got your people, your team members, and all their skills. Then you have equipment and tools, which could be anything from software to, I don't know, a chainsaw. Then there are facilities, like an office or meeting room. Materials are the things you use up, like paper or fuel. And of course, the big one, the budget that makes it all possible. Okay, so if the plan is pretty straightforward, where does it all go wrong? Well, the key is to stop thinking of these problems as random disasters and start seeing them for what they are: predictable hurdles that you can actually plan for. Let's walk through the most common ones. First up, the classic scope creep. When the project suddenly gets way bigger than you planned. The solution here is just good old-fashioned discipline. Before you say yes to any change, you have to hit pause and really assess what it's going to cost in resources. Do you actually have the people, the time, and the money to get it done? Next up is just life, right? A key person on your team gets sick. A supplier's delivery is late. These things are going to happen. It's not an if, it's a when. So the trick is to build some contingency, a little bit of a buffer into your plan from day one. It gives you that wiggle room you need so that a small problem doesn't become a catastrophe. And this ties right back to our friend, the domino effect. To stop it, you've got to be strategic. You need to identify your most critical dependencies, what project managers call the critical path, and build your backup plans specifically around those really vulnerable spots. And here's a really modern one: distributed teams working across different time zones. When you only have a few hours where everyone is online at the same time, you can't just leave communication to chance. You have to proactively work with your team to find some flexible hours that maximize that crossover time. It's what prevents a simple question from causing a whole day's delay. Okay, we've looked at the problems, we've got the right mindset. Now for the good part. Let's turn all this theory into a practical 5-step plan you can actually use for effective resource allocation. Here's the roadmap, and it's super logical. First, you create a timeline. Then you figure out what you need. Then, and this is key, you check what you actually have available. And finally, you assign everything and keep a close eye on it. Let's break down the important parts. So, steps 1 and 2 are basically your homework. This is where you break the entire project down into phases and individual tasks, creating a super clear timeline. Then you pull in your team and use their experience to figure out exactly what skills, tools, and materials you're going to need for every single one of those tasks. And now we get to step 3, which is all about checking in with reality. You might look at your team and think, great, I've got Alex, Brenda, and Carlos. But a quick check of the resource pool shows you that Alex is totally booked and Carlos is on vacation. The only person with any capacity is Brenda. See? This simple check stops you from building a plan that's based on pure fantasy. And that's the key takeaway, isn't it? Just because someone is on your team doesn't mean they're available for your project. You have to dig deeper. Check their assignments on other projects, check for planned vacations, and get a real sense of their actual day-to-day capacity. That's where the truth is. So once you have that clear, real-world picture, you can move on to step 4 and formally assign your resources. And you always include that crucial buffer. But you're not done. Step 5 is continuous. You have to monitor everything. Your plan is a living thing, and you have to watch it like a hawk for any delays or overworked team members so you can make adjustments on the fly. So, what does this all add up to? When you put it all together, it's about a fundamental shift in how you see your job. It's about moving from being a firefighter to being an architect. I absolutely love this quote because it just nails the whole idea. With good resource allocation, you're not just running around reacting to problems as they explode. You're using a system to prevent those problems from ever even starting. And honestly, that is the entire ballgame right there. A clear, upfront resource plan is what separates the manager who is always reacting, always putting out the next fire, from the one who is strategic, calmly designing the project for success right from the very beginning. So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. When you look at your own projects, are they truly designed for success from the ground up? Or are they just kind of set up to react to the next inevitable failure? The choice, and now the tools to make it, are yours.